Hey Anya, here's the second video I was talking about that I wanted to do for you for the inconvenience. So when it comes to scales, there's so many scales, and they're all kind of manipulations of the major scale or the pentatonic scale. You're either adding a note to the pentatonic or removing a note from the major. And then beyond that, you're doing things like sharpening or flattening a single note. And that one little nuance creates a whole new thing that you have to learn. So you kind of want to tackle the scales based on what's either going to be used the most often or is at least different from what you just previously learned. That's the way I look at it. So the major scale is just a must, and you already know that. You teach that. Hopefully you're pretty adept at playing it on the fretboard, but that's an obvious one. Everyone should start with the major scale. It also gives us the chords of the key, with 1, 4, 5 being major and 2, 3, 6 being minor, all that stuff, right? Then we do the pentatonic so we can remain keyless. What's the reason for that? Well, for example, a G chord is in the key of G, but that same G chord is also in the key of C, and it's also in the key of D. So you have to say to yourself, well, which key am I in when I play it? And therefore, by adding more chords, you start to isolate that key. That's a lot more thinking than the pentatonic, which is why people start with the pentatonic. You just play G major pentatonic over any song that has a G major as the first chord of a rhythm, and you're all set. You don't have to worry about key. The trade-off being that you gave up 2 notes, right? Well, beyond that, the natural minor scale is an inversion of the major scale where you start with the 6th note instead of the first. Since everything in guitar and music is equal across the plane of 12 notes, every note gets to be a key, etc. There's 12 major scales, etc. It always makes sense to learn things in C major or A minor because you have no sharps or flats, and it's easy to get around the fretboard looking where to go next, right? So while the C major scale is C, D, E, F, G, A, B, the A minor natural scale is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, straight up alphabet, okay? We've touched on that a bit. So for the next scale that I like a lot, and is definitely gives you a different sound, but can still be used in the key that it's from, is, excuse me, is the harmonic minor scale. There's a harmonic major and a harmonic minor. So when you play the A natural minor scale from A to A in the key of C, this would be the first position as always because that's where the A note is, just like the pentatonic. But instead of just the pentatonic, you're playing A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. And that is the natural minor scale from the 6th. The harmonic minor scale, like I said, a lot of scales are just the manipulation of one note. The harmonic minor scale sharpens what is the 7th note of the natural minor scale, which is G. So you could look at it as the 5th note of the C major scale or the 7th note of the harmonic of the minor scale. But basically what I'm saying, all of that bullshit aside, is that it's the A natural minor scale, but you sharpen the G to be a G sharp. And that gives it a very distinct sound like this. Sorry, I made a mistake. It has a lot of tension, it can sound sinister, and it's interesting because it has a big gap between the second to last note and the last note, meaning A, B, C, D, E, F, G sharp. That distance between F and G sharp is quite large for a modal 7-note scale. This looks more like a pentatonic scale with these empty frets in between. So yes, it does involve relearning the map like all scales do. I mean, it's just something you have to live with. That's why I say you choose the one that you want to spend time learning based on whether it sounds very different or it's useful or at least it interests you. I think this will interest you because you play it in the key of C over an A minor chord, in this case using A. If it was G minor, you would use G, etc. Due to that sharpened G note, you don't have to change the chords. You're still playing chords in the key of A minor, right? So you have, in this one here, I'm going to zoom in so you know that my 2 dots here is the 5th fret. So if you just go from A to A in the three different scales, the first being the pentatonic, A natural minor, and A harmonic minor, so there's the three different ways thus far between us to play in A minor or any minor, but again, we're staying in A and C because there's no sharps or flats. But yes, in this case, you are sharpening that G to G sharp, and you have to omit the G while playing. All right, so I've explained it. Let's get to playing it. With this being position 1, as always, just like the pentatonic, this is position 5, and over your open A minor is position 4. Okay, so I'm going to be doing the open one today for this video lesson. So what I like to do first is say to myself, well, how many of the open strings are in the scale? So I know I can play open notes as I go. In the normal A minor, natural minor, every single one of these is in it because they're all whole notes. E, A, D, G, B, E, they're in the scale of C. But with the harmonic minor, you can't play the open G string because you have to play G sharp. So that little sort of monkey wrench in it makes you have to redo all your thinking. So step 1, I know 5 of the 6 open strings are in my scale, but not the G string. Instead, I'll be playing at the first fret, that G sharp, and then right into A. So string by string, first I know that the first string and the last string have to look the same position-wise because they're both the E string. So since there will be an open note, it's E, F, and G sharp. And on the last string, the same. On the next string, you start with your open A note, the root note, and with A, B, C, you want to remember, you want to keep your fingers as you can without leaving position, right? So far, we're locked into the pointer finger being in the first fret because we need the F. We had the open E, and we need the pinky on G sharp, so we need this 1-4. On the next string, you have an open A, and then B, and then C, because you'll just be saying the alphabet, just like A natural minor, except for G. So you have A, B, C, which turns into open, second finger, third finger, or open 2, 3. The next string conveniently duplicates that with open D to E to F. Now the next string, you got to be careful you can't play open. You need this G sharp, and then you need to play A, so you'll be doing 1, 2. After the A, you're going to play open B. C is a pointer finger. D is a ring finger, so that's open 1, 3. Starting over, I have open 1, 4. 2 rounds of open 2, 3. A single 1, 2 with no open string, definitely has to be remembered, followed by open 1, 3 for B, C, D, and the next string will also be open E, F, G sharp, just like the first string. So the last 2 strings are open 1, 3, open 1, 4. And you should always play little bits of the scale and get used to it. A lot of people think, oh, I go top to bottom, I'm done. You got to play it over and over, as many little bits of it as you can, so you get used to those phrases. All right, so now, let me zoom in and focus here. Top to bottom, I'm open 1, 4. 2 rounds of open 2, 3. A 1, 2 on the G sharp A. An open 1, 3. And an open 1, 4. Giving me with no root note. The root note is A, but I haven't stopped on it. I'm just going everything available from open E to this G sharp. And that's going to give me 3, 2, 1. Now, if you want to take it further and stop on the A's, you're going to have the open A, the A at the 2nd fret of the G string, and very close to this, but not included in the position, so I'm not going to play it, is that A. So in my eyes, this open position here, position 4, is going to have 2 A's. So I'll stop on them now. There you have it. So give it a shot, okay? Let me know any questions.